Hey, tonight's gonna be an amazing night. Thank you everyone for coming in, joining us again at 8 p.m. today. Friday is our night, happy Friday, Nachin. Tonight we have two amazing guests. Both of them about conspiracy, COVID-19. What's going on. Last week we had an amazing conversation with Dr. Shapiro. He let us know and how we need to protect ourselves, how to protect our children. We need to exercise. Stay away from the junk food. Don't even get me started on that. That's a different conversation. But yeah, man, I like
That, as they say,
it's part of
that
us.
that is the
How
popular consensus right now. COVID-19, the world is living through it. Welcome again, episode 2 now, Nachin and friends, and we hope to bring you substance every Friday, something that's going to make you think, something that's going to make you feel differently, and not make you feel like you're just passing through time. And I bring you people that have value to me. I have friends on the line that are joining us. Our producer Carlos. We have Pulpo from Mexico, and we have Dean Ryan, an awesome individual behind the enemy lines, as they say, because both of these individuals, Pulpo and Dean Ryan, know a lot of what's going on as far as conspiracies. That is a term that we're going to be analyzing as well. But today's a great episode, so welcome to Nachin and Friends. Friday night, this is your night. Let's do this. Let's get this started. Welcome, guys. How are you guys?
let's do this.
What's
What's
up,
up,
guys?
guys?
Well, happy
Happy
Friday.
Friday,
Friday,
Dean.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy Friday 13th.
Oh yeah, it is Friday the 13th, as Pulpo says, from Mexico. Man, it's a crazy, I guess, times that we're living. If you want to look at it from a psychological way, from a religious way, some people say that it's foretold in the Bible, and some people say that it's just the end of the world. A lot of different existential feelings are going around, but Dean, you have a different perspective on the whole matter. You've been doing, I guess, information behind conspiracies for how long, or what would you call yourself?
Just a curious individual. But I think the term conspiracy, created by the Pentagon in the late 60s, was to throw off people from questioning things by marginalizing them, because people were questioning the JFK assassination of 1963. That's where the term conspiracy came from, a form of almost demonization. So when people say I'm a conspiracy theorist, I like to disagree and say I'm a conspiracy realist, because right now, for example, this would be considered science fiction just a few months ago. Well, this science fiction became science fact. So, at the end of the day, I do the job that journalists, TV pundits, and analysis and analytical people can't seem to do on corporate CIA-controlled China-backed media.
So, Dean, the question is this: why the mass control? Do they really want to go into the one world order?
So right now it is a one world government consolidation happening called the multipolar world order, headed by China and Israel, our very best friend. And it was agreed upon to invest in China. If you recall, Bush 1 from the early 90s, late 80s, always kept talking about a new world order. So what happened after that? They deindustrialized the United States. Clinton brought in NAFTA. All the factories went to China, and that's why China's had their economic boom the past 25 plus years. It was to invest in that country. It was dirt cheap. They have the labor to do it, and they can be exploited. And now what is it? China's always been the model. They have the social crediting system. They have all the AIs that control all your movements. They have the snitch society. So if Nachin in China, if Nachin walks home drunk from the bar, your neighbor sees it, he can snitch on you and get social crediting points added to him, and you lose 5 points, because that's considered inappropriate behavior.
So it's like a real
and that's what they're
Matrix
bringing
movie.
here. The snitch society is China. Well, it's yes, it's real. It's the technocratic dictatorship. Basically, a bunch of Bill Gates type eggheads like Eric Schmidt who are doing Skynet, artificial intelligence that they want to force on the people. But see, you got to understand too, we're living in a post-human era. So that's why you've seen the transgender thing. They wanted to make gender obsolete, so we don't care about it anymore. Get us away from nature, keep us inside, to introduce us into the cyborg, put the nanotechnology in us, and have us merge into the machine and controlled by AIs. Function to it if you get out of hand. So I know this sounds like Star Trek, weird stuff, but this is TED Talks, all the science magazines across the board. This is what they're talking about. And, so it's cool when they talk about it, they get taken seriously. But if a guy in the street talks about it, we're crazy.
So behind this whole thing in China, the whole investment, the whole money behind it is Bill Gates, or the majority of it, or corporate America, because a lot of the argument and a lot of people say it's happening is that China is now the world power. They've taken over, and this war became because of that, an economic war where China needed to flex a muscle and they couldn't do it better than what they did.
Sure. Right. So China, what they did is they infiltrated and rigged the system. What do I mean by that? Well, right now I'm in California. California is a proxy state of China. So Dianne Feinstein, the senator of California, was caught with her butler, who was charged with espionage for China, giving the secret. You look at a lot of politicians like Cuomo. Why did Cuomo take the ventilators from China and not the United States? So they infiltrated through multinational corporations that donate to politicians. They infiltrated by, buying up Hollywood, and they own the AMC channel, they own Sony. They infiltrated by Obama gave them a 40-year contract lease for the Long Beach port, one of the biggest ports in our country.
Wow.
Which all the fentanyl, the children trafficking comes through. China infiltrated our university system by funding universities. That's why you see all the socialism coming back. It's rebranded as progressivism. It's communism mixed with globalism on top. And you see all these things, and look at the NBA. When the NBA, which is highly deep state, when they were in China playing one of their games for the Chinese people, and one of the NBA coaches was criticized China's handling of the Hong Kong protest, they sent him home because you're not allowed to say that. And oh, by the way, LeBron James made sure he stood up for their national anthem.
Wow.
So that's who owns. Do you know who owns who? By the people you're not allowed to criticize.
That is true.
Wow.
What do you?
Yeah,
I could go further. Why don't you guys go ahead?
Go ahead, Carlos.
Well, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, all right. Well, everything I've laid out is just kind of the Cliff Notes version. What China has, they've rigged the system, and what do I mean by that is when we send the product, when we were the very few products we make in the United States, let's talk about a few years back, we'd have to pay a 30% tax rate to sell it into China. Through China's infiltration and their little puppet politicians, big and small, they only paid like a 2% tax. You see how they were, milking off us because, we don't care. Nobody talks about it. Nobody understands what a tariff is. They don't teach it in school. So when you realize that they were the parasites milking off us for decades and devaluing the dollar, all these buying up our debt. When you buy someone's debt, you
pretty
own
much.
them.
But
and not just us.
But you would say that the United States was the I'm sorry. Sorry to cut you off. You would say that the United States is the party that actually planned it like this, or it just sort of happened? It exploded on its own.
So what the bankers do in these secretive groups, they infiltrate countries. They build up the country through illegal proxies and trades and wars on the smaller countries, and they build up the countries. Then when they're done leeching off that country, they just go to the next one. So when I say China is the world power of great evil, doesn't mean I mean Chinese. It means the the nefarious characters, Soros, Hillary's just one of their puppets that can get her way through blackmail. That's a whole other issue. They use countries. This is what centralized bankers do, like the Federal Reserve, and they've been doing it for a long time. And I can make a case to say that's really what a lot of the Civil War was about, was the centralization of money and who controls it. And this has been going on from time to time throughout history. Now, when they're done with China, they'll go on to another country, these banks. That's why, what Trump did by taking the purse strings of the Federal Reserve, which is a private bank running our financial system. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
We took it back and gave it to the constitutional reality that it was supposed to be, which is Congress, who are supposed to run the financial system. That was a big move, and by the way, that's what John F. Kennedy was about to do before they murdered him.
Wow.
Big no-no.
So, Dean, you said there's obviously these bodies that are behind this whole movement of money, power. So these guys are pretty much, I wouldn't nominate them as the Illuminatis or all these other entities, because I'm not sure what to call them at this point. But you would say that these guys are pretty much playing chess with the world. They can do as they please, milk it, and then go to the next place, and so on and so on.
So basically, when we say Venezuela is they're a great evil country, the rhetoric. When you look past the rhetoric, you look past the curtain, you realize Venezuela is nothing but another proxy state of China. China has multiple military bases throughout Venezuela. They run the fentanyl, which is a dirty form of it, and like a heroin type of thing. It's been soft killing Americans, and they'll ship it through Mexico, Guatemala. I've been in Guatemala, and they ship it through the underground tunnels. And for a long time, it was the port. Remember, they had the lease to the Long Beach port. They just put the crates. So they were doing all these things, and it was big money. It's black market money. Adrenochrome, fentanyl, children from Honduras that just run around everywhere. They just snatch them at night, and same with Guatemala. And so that was their feeding ground, and China was pushing that. Now, if you notice earlier, I said Israel, and I'll get to them. And I'm not just China focused, but they are the main drivers of this world order that they formed, that everyone signed on to. We're just in the way. That's why they're having a world war with us. Kind of that friend you might have that in the back of their mind they kind of hate you, but they they're your friend up front. So you, in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, at some point in time, I'm gonna have to deal with this person. That's what's gonna happen to, unfortunately, Israel, who's been the protected state from us, but now they're the most dominant country in the Middle East because they were promised that. Promised that. They made a deal with China in 2014 called the Red Rail System. And what that was, it was a multi-billion-dollar ordeal. So when they wanted to trade, they didn't have to go through the Suez Canal anymore in Egypt. You just used Israel and China's Red Rail, and you pay their tax. They don't have to pay the tax. It's a big moneymaker, and that was the big deal that started their partnership for this one world government back in 2014. Because Israel is being controlled by a bunch of psychopaths like Benjamin Netanyahu, who are a bunch of Zionist, Rothschild Zionist psychopaths, like the neocons, like Bush, but for Israel. And they just, it's never enough. They're like blood-thirsty, lust-thirsty, all that stuff. And there is a movement in Israel to eradicate these people from power. So we just don't hear about it. So it's not that I'm ignoring. I'm just trying to round it all together because it is a lot.
It is, and it's a lot for an episode. Right now, it's kind of like you said, it's like the synopsis of the whole story, because we're looking at a movement that is worldwide, that it's impacting everybody from any age group, from any social background, because we are really moving towards another dimension, if you want to call it that. My friend Pulpo from Mexico, who I think went to the restroom right now, he was mentioning to me this week, he was saying, Do you think it's part of the whole bigger picture? Because behind these power movements, there's also, I've heard ideas where people say that it's also aliens coming on board. Do you believe that, or do you believe it's part of cyborgs or this whole movement behind that? What is the connection between those two?
Well, I mean, there could be a case made that they're getting ready for disclosure of extraterrestrials. I mean, the Navy, the United States Navy, just relinquished information that they've saw the UFOs, and I'm sure you've seen the videos of it, of the naval pilot recording. They're like, "What the hell is that?" A lot of it too is what I call IFOs, identified flying objects, basically anti-gravitational aircraft that is, 15 to 20 years in the future. We just, like the whole Space Force thing wasn't something new that Trump dreamed of. It's more of a disclosure of a secret space program that's already happening. They're just introducing it finally to the American people, which they'll do with the cure for cancer too. That's already.
That's going to be their hit.
That's another stuff. Pardon?
That's going to be one of their little check marks that they're going to get points for. The cure for cancer.
The cure for cancer has been sealed and hidden from us because it's too much money they're making off managing cancer rather than curing it. It's a mafia. The medical industrial complex, or the cancer industrial complex rather, is a big time mafia kingpin that, once you start messing with them, like the CDC and the vaccines, you better watch your ass, because these people will have you killed. They're heavily invested into these vaccines, and I say that as in, how many patents does Bill Gates own? And you'd be surprised. The last patent was March 26th. He had a patent for a nanotech Bitcoin that he was going to put in the vaccine that they were getting ready to roll out with this pandemic that they've been planning for the ID 2020.
And that's my biggest concern. I totally disagree with that. I mean, if a doctor, a certified, licensed, went to school for 40 years, 20 years doctor, helps the patient recover, finds a cure, his license is taken away and whatnot. Yet, you have this guy, Bill Gates, no medical background, no license, didn't go to medical school, but has money. How does that work? I mean, how do you explain that?
Right. Well, I can explain that when you're talking about these doctors that introduce natural cures and all that, or they discover something, they usually wind up killing themselves immediately after. And that's true. There's dozens of them that have died because of that. And regarding Bill Gates is he's not who he appears to be. He's some kind of asset from an intelligence agency, we believe CIA. I've seen the pictures of him, Barack Obama, and Michelle, or at that time Mike, from 1981. So it was planned. I have the photos somewhere. Yeah, he and it's really who his father was. Who's Bill Gates' father? His father was a worldly who practiced eugenics and taught his son about eugenics. If you don't know what eugenics is, it's ethnic cleansing. That's why all the testing they do is usually done in Africa or China, because they consider them expendable.
So in other words,
many Chinese people,
population control. In other words,
population control, which is part of UN Agenda 21 or now 2030, where they wanted to eliminate the world population anywhere upwards to 80 to 90% of the people. And what a perfect way to do it, not from this weak virus that's no dangerous than the flu, but from what I coined several weeks ago, a food-demic, to starve them. So when I say that, I don't say that lightly. It's the fact that I get messages and intel from food truck drivers that are getting rerouted and told to drop off all their food, not at the distribution center, but in an empty warehouse. Because if you read the Communist Manifesto and how the communism works, they want to centralize the control of food, rationing, just like the Soviet Union. And when you do that, now that crisis of the virus, which nobody was really thought, like, wait a minute, 6 feet, people are starting to question it. You have to understand it's about controlling the narrative. So they need a new crisis. Like, we need a new crisis right away. And they want a new crisis right away that's going to bleed into what the 2020 election, because they want the executive branch back to the abolish type hands so they can make all their deals, get all their trafficking back into play. And that's why they're extremely upset. It's not going their way. And, whether you like Trump or not, it doesn't matter to me, because you know a man by his enemies and by his actions. And his actions and his enemies is done.
So these people get chosen to be in power. Obviously, they are the face. They are the characters that sell the message to the people. How does someone get into that? Is it just lineage, blood lineage that's been passed on, and they just continue the leadership through their ranks because of their status?
So we've had, I almost said our lifetime, but we're not that old. But within reasonable memory, we probably had probably about 4 real presidents that tried to be their own man. So the first one would be, I should give Eisenhower some credit, but that's a little too before my time right now. I don't want to look foolish, but Kennedy, who was actually, to answer your question, he was one of them. He was a CFR member, which is Council on Foreign Relations. His father, Joe Kennedy, got rich through bootlegging and mob in the 1920s. They were all part of the upper echelons, secret societies in Houston and all these things, and womanizer to the T. And what Kennedy wound up doing is he had an epiphany and decided, I got to do the right thing. I got to tell my people about the secret societies, which was in his speech. I have to get us into space. I have to keep us out of war in Vietnam. He didn't fall for the Bay of Pigs. And I have to end one of the greatest nefarious private industries, private clubs, and that's the Federal Reserve. And he signed the executive order 111101 that was going to end the Federal Reserve, put the financial back into the Treasury, controlled by the Congress, and issue greenbacks. And when he started to do this, that's when LBJ, who was the rat bastard vice president, set him up with CIA and other shadowy groups. I would say George Herbert Walker Bush, and kill them. So that was probably our first real president that wanted something for the people. Nixon, I wouldn't say he was like the greatest person for the people. Man, took terrible advice from Henry Kissinger.
I think we're having problems with the connection. Dean, can you hear us? Because you're going in and out.
I can hear you, yeah.
Carlos, can you hear Dean? Carlos can even hear me.
I can hear me.
I can hear you guys.
All right. Good. No, well, I mean, this whole thing is very interesting, but I guess right now what anybody in listening to what you're saying would ask is, what can we do? How can we stay safe? Should we just ride the wave, or what's going on? I mean, how can we survive?
Well, first of all, we have to realize a fraud. If somebody frauds you or if somebody steals your identity, you don't just keep using that same PIN number. Do something about it. And doing something about that is understanding who, not just, the solution on, my foot hurts, so I got to change my shoe. Well, we got to understand why your foot hurts. Meaning we need to understand who the bad actors are, who the liars and frauds are that are trying to kill us and our family. And I think I'm doing that every single day. And I applaud you for, continuing the torch. So we have to understand the psyop. We have to understand this fake demic that's been put on us and the true purpose, why that has been done anymore. Because it's very clear who the enemy is. And we have a common enemy. And they look just just like you and me, and they're not that far away from us, and they're controlling things, and there are very few of them. So once you do that, you get this discernment, and then you get the Midas touch and the zeitgeist, and you act to, because we're men, right? We have a duty to protect the community, the family, the women, and the children. So we need to be prepared for following. So I'm going to tell you guys what I truly believe is coming in some form or fashion. Everything I said that was going to happen has happened. Wi-Fi slowdown, the electricity, all the issues with the phone, and all these things. So this is what is going to happen, I believe. Right now, we're facing a food demic. They're purposely burning the food, throwing it away, putting in empty warehouses. Who is they? I would say blue states. Governor Newsom, who's a puppet of the Chinese, like Pelosi, his auntie. Governor Whitmore, Governor Whitmore of Michigan, Governor Northam of Virginia. All the big blue state governors of Washington, they're under direct order, if not from Pelosi, who's under direct order of China itself. And they're going to continue the crisis and make it hurt. They don't want you going back to work. That's why Newsom here in California said we're going to have a lockdown until August. Are you kidding me? And so Orange County and Riverside said, no, we don't think so. You take some liberties from us, fine, but you take our beaches away. And that ain't going to happen. So what we're going to see, Governor Newsom, for example, and same thing in Chicago, he, and I use governor very loosely, I usually say chairman, but he released 3,500 prison inmates weeks and weeks ago. I just got a report from a young girl, like in her 20s, single mother. She said, Dean, I watched your show, and I just want to let you know I saw 30 men in wife beaters in an affluent neighborhood of Santa Monica just walking around with nothing to do. Well, okay, that's going to be a common thing now. And where I'm staying here in West LA, I hear gunshots at night that I never hear. I don't know. What do we think is going to happen when those food stamps don't work at 7-Eleven or Big Lots? We're looking at a civil unrest, riots like we haven't seen since 1992 here in LA, but it's going to be nationwide. And it's going to be used and driven into the election to control the narrative, because it's always about controlling the narrative. And with that, when there's civil unrest, people give up what? More liberties. And that's what we're going to see. Now, that's one scenario that, and it's, I think quite personally and honest, I think it's a lot of violence and some writings happening and being underreported, quite frankly. So that's one scenario that I see coming. The other one, I think, I just discovered last night. It came to me like divine intervention. So with everything I've told you guys about the action to take back the United States, to push China back, and all these things, what have we seen over the course of 3 to 4 years? We've seen the Russian collusion investigation, which was complete crap, to say it politely. We've seen the Ukraine scandal. We've seen the Women's March. It was nothing but a CIA psyop, George Soros backed. We've seen just all these hurdles, the impeachment, all these things. The deep state, which is not just Democrats, which is establishment Republicans as well, they're out of cards. They're out of ammo. And now their most prized possession, most invested character they've ever created, aka Barack Obama, who was quote unquote scandal free throughout his presidency, which is entirely not true. He had a PR firm called the mainstream media. He is now getting punched in the nose in public harder than he's ever been with this new thing called Obamagate. And what Obamagate is, it's now listing all the crimes of Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and a lot of their cabinet members. And with that, they're losing credibility, integrity, and the will of the people, like, by the day. So the guy, the puppet master, to really understand the character of Barack Obama, the puppet master behind him and the creator and the author of him is former CIA director John Brennan. John Brennan is the mastermind behind everything. If you've ever seen Barack Obama speak without a teleprompter, it's not the same person. He can't do it
He's not trained
because he's
well
not
in that
running the show.
aspect.
He never did. Yeah, I mean, he's a great reader. Don't get me wrong, but outside of a tone, he's just an actor. I mean, he's so bad at acting, he makes Will Smith look pretty good, but she's not. And
So, Dean,
yeah,
behind this whole
so
thing,
what
say,
I'm
okay,
saying to you
the whole
guys,
riot thing breaks out. We create this new world order. That's when they're gonna justify, obviously, like losing our rights, and they're gonna go in there. Is that why we saw, like about a month and a half ago, we saw a lot of movement of tanks throughout the state of
because
California?
okay, so that was Jade Helm. That could have been, yeah, I think that was a practice, a dry run of kind of what we're seeing now because since the pandemic, there has been military action and rollout throughout the country. And in fact, I've named the actual cross streets and location of where the war is actually happening. If you recall, the Joint Chief of Staff's late March, I want to say early.
All right,
We're losing you, Dean.
there's no audio. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we lost him because he's up in the
well,
Hollywood Hills,
it's
and oh, he's back. Okay,
he's back.
you're back, Dean. We had lost you. Can you hear us? Hello, Dean.
Hello.
Dean, can you hear us? We don't know what's happening. I don't know if it's something with the connection or he's being tapped.
Hello.
But he is a fellow that gets in the front of the lines. And actually, here in California, when all this pandemic started going on and people got tired, a lot of them went to Huntington Beach protest, right, Charlie? And he was one of them that was there. He was actually protesting for the right for people to come out and be free because he believes this whole COVID-19 is a hoax. So, I mean,
I truly believe the same thing. I mean, I did see his post that he was out there with the people, and going back to he was saying where they knew this was coming, and they know is. I truly believe this is history happening all over again. You know what happened with the Hispanic flu. I mean, influenza.
mm-hmm,
It didn't happen in Spain. It was happening in the trenches where the war was happening.
mm-hmm,
You know, it was happening to United States people.
mm-hmm,
But what they do to go ahead and control ahead and blame it on the Spaniards that it came from over there and whatnot, you know.
mm-hmm.
And it's happening now. Who are we blaming? In China, you know. Did it really happen there? I don't know. You know, I truly believe that it was the whole virus was manipulated and
Mm-hmm.
let go. I mean, if you think about it, I was doing a little bit of research before all this, and back on January 24th, you know, we still didn't know anything about COVID-19. We didn't know anything about coronavirus. All we knew was, you know, unfortunately, we lost a legend, which was Kobe Bryant. We had the
We had a
impeachment
normal life.
trial.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had a normal life. In the meantime, these guys were writing up the CARE Act. Dude, that's a CARE Act. That's money people got 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 weeks ago. These guys already knew it was going to happen. They were working on it since January 24th.
It's crazy
So,
how everything is money and power driven at the end of the day. And it's sad because we were taught a narrative of like, do good and you'll be good. Like, for instance, when I was in the radio business, I performed well, I gave good results, but that wasn't enough because there was a secret agenda. I was told by one of my bosses one time, he said, you're not supposed to give them information. You're not supposed to illustrate them. We need stupid consumers. That's the only way we get to do sales. And I was like, okay, well, I cannot be a repetitive jock. I cannot be somebody that just says the same thing over and over, selling you music, selling you a concert.
puppet.
So
Right.
it's all part of this whole thing of controlling. And now that I look at it, it's like, man, it's a crazy world. I think we got Dean back. Dean, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. That was yeah, it was
Yeah,
weird.
what happened there?
Trying to
You
figure
think you're
where we
being
left off.
they're monitoring you?
Oh, yeah, constantly. I can't even do my own
Wow.
show properly without getting kicked off. Okay, so I think where I was getting at is when you look at the power structure that's been in control, they've really run out of moves and plays, kind of like a football team that every play they try to do, it gets, they're sacked or intercepted. So it's my belief that I think the next move that, and I feel it in my gut and my heart, not that I want it or wish it, is I think they're going to do an event, an assassination event on Barack Obama by his own people. And by his own people, I mean John Brennan. And they're going to use this event, which I'm calling Operation Martyr, to cover his crimes that are now coming out. He was illegally wiretapping and or spying on Americans since 2010 with John Brennan, the mastermind. That's why he got everything passed. That's why you criticize Barack Obama during his presidency. Bad things happen to you. Look at all the Tea Party people. They had the IRS take them all down. I know them personally because they spoke out. But anyways, they're going to do that. And who benefits from that? Well, obviously, the people behind Obama benefit from it. They can escape their crimes, plausible deniability. They control the narrative again. They get the sympathy and they're pulling on the heartstrings of Americans, especially women who love that heartfelt story. They're going to have the media darlings and push their narrative of how they had dinner with Barack Obama this one year with celebrities and such. But there's two very big things that are going to come from it. Number one, what's going to happen from this potential scenario, which we're calling Operation Martyr, is it's going to bolster support, not for Joe Biden in this next election. It's going to bolster support for Michelle Obama, who's going to be running for president. She's already being rumored, and she's behind all these PR firms pushing that rumor out there. And there's a CPAC saying, we want Michelle to run for VP, CPAC, political
But at the end of the day,
and it's going to bolster her
I'm sorry to
support.
interrupt you, Dean. At the end of the day, Michelle and Joe Biden, they're still puppets to the money behind it, right?
Oh yeah, I mean they're puppets. They're as nefarious as it can get, especially Joe Biden, who's the most corrupt individual probably in all of politics. I mean, the JFK Jr. files just came out 2 weeks ago, and if you read them, it said that he was tried to kill JFK Jr.
Wow.
in the 90s, and there was assassination attempts and kidnapping attempts in 1995. Why? What was JFK Jr. trying to do? Oh, he was trying to run for Senate in New York in the year 2000, the same year other prominent woman was trying to do that, Hillary Clinton. So,
hey, Brian, let me ask you this. Now, with all that history going on in the past, do you feel that with this whole cover-up thing, you think it's just another cover-up for history to repeat itself again?
No, this is the post-human era. Well, yeah, there's always the classic textbook cover-ups. I mean, you take COVID-19. What's COVID? Certificate of vaccine ID. That's exactly what Bill Gates has been talking about for years. The World Economic Forum talks about these things. The CFR. I mean, they've wanted to control us like herded cattle for so long. They hate the family. They wanted to destroy the family, and really just have us be a bunch of subservients, just like what they've done to the Chinese people. I mean, we have generations of Chinese that don't even know what freedom is since the placement of Mao Zedong in 1949. They don't even know. They think that's just normal way of life. Just like our children today will have no idea what life was like before 9/11 and before all this police state and brutality was around. When you see a cop and say, "Oh, hey, policeman," they'll never know that world. And there's a reason for that, but that's probably another show. get
But
into.
the whole
So
idea behind this whole
what I'm
movement
what
then
I'm what I'm
is like you said, population control, control of the masses. But who gets this
divide and
satisfaction?
conquer.
The one
Right.
percenters?
Well, it's not just the one percenters. It's the industry that's been based around one percenters, like Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, who claim to be community organizers. But then they create this community of identity politics, where if you don't identify with me the way I look or the way I talk and act, then you want nothing to do with me, and everything I say is null and void and means nothing to you. Well, Barack Obama gave us that, you know. And what they're really worried about in current news with Michael Flynn coming out is Michael Flynn worked under the Obama administration in 2012 and has the documents how Obama, Hillary, and Biden created ISIS in Syria and all that. So he knows where the bodies are buried, unquote. So, but to get back real quick, and I'll be really quick, is that's the plan. I believe is to bolster her, and then when Obama is when he's off, they're already going to have their patsy in the corner, who's going to be the lone gunman or shooter. And guess what? The patsy is going to be wearing a Trump T-shirt. He's going to be Caucasian, and he's going to have an AR-15, and they'll have the new boogeyman that's going to spark race riots. That's going to divide and conquer more, bolster support for the new America's widow, Michelle Obama, and get her into the executive office and all her friends. And by the way, her VP, if she does that, it's going to be an all-woman ticket. Can you guess who the VP would be on that ticket? Hillary Clinton.
Wow. Wow. So this whole thing is all a whole game behind it. But is this why Trump keeps calling these people the fake media? He keeps going against it, or is Trump part of the other group that is controlling it? I mean, we have the entities of the parties, but let's put that aside. Some people say there's only one party, the money party,
Yeah.
but it seems like there is two different worlds that are fighting against each other for power all the way.
Well, there is a group that has been they've been in our military. To be more, I guess, precise and detailed, I would say the NSA and military leaders and such over the years that have seen the crimes of the past presidents, whether it's Bush or Obama, and the erosion of our country, our sovereignty, and our civil liberties, and the rise of other nation states. And that's what they do. They play nations and countries off each other. These group of bankers, like the Rothschilds. You know, Hillary's just one of their pawns, but she has some power, and she'll probably kill you if you criticize her and make it look like a suicide.
Oh no, she's a great human being.
Anthony Bourdain. Yeah, she's a great human being. And I mean, she couldn't even fill a high school auditorium during the 2016 election.
Wow.
In fact, I had a leaked document from the Clinton Foundation. She was actually losing to Trump 77-19, and her own data surveyors. That's how much she cheated with ballot harvesting and all that stuff. She was paying people in Vegas $400 or like $100 to a bum to go vote. She had
So
her people out there.
this has turned out to be like Mexico, where they buy elections now.
Yeah, next level. Yeah, well, with Mexico, and I'm not the most informed. I've always thought it was, it's the highest millionaire per capita in the world is Mexico City, and that was a few years back. But Mexico, to my knowledge, the original Mexicans, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were the Aztecs, the Aztecas, and they're shorter, right? And then when the Spaniards came, they were kind of the tall gringo type, green eyes. Am I on track? And it seems that those Spaniards that came are the ones now still in control. And not only are they in control, they're in line and sync with the cartels, who are actually single-handedly working with U.S. Congress and Senate people and our own CIA. So the fix is in, whether we know it or not. It's happening. But we have had an underground war since the pandemic has started out of Long Beach Harbor, when the Pentagon and the military has been training our soldiers not to fight the next war on a jungle terrain or Middle East sand desert, but they've been training for the past 2 years plus underground, because that's a new warfare. We have deep underground tunnels, bases. I've outed it. When you felt those quote unquote earthquakes out of Inglewood a few weeks ago, oceans. And tunnels, and if people think I'm crazy, even Playboy admitted they had tunnels in People magazine 2015. I read articles, so
Wow. They use them for to hide out for in the case of chaos comes out.
Sex trafficking children and drugs and human trafficking, and originally what they were used for was bootlegging, the old tunnels stuff, but that's what they've been used for. Now, we identified the tunnel from Long Beach Harbor, and it went all the way to Playboy Mansion, and it was connected to Getty Museum. And for the longest time, too, a lot of these tunnels, and it's in the People magazine from 2015, they would go all the way up here to Hollywood Hills, where I'm currently am, allegedly. And they would go to Jack Nicholson's house, Warren Beatty's house, and other A-listers at the time in the 70s and 80s that they're admitting. I actually know a girl who's a prominent, I'll say journalist, but I'll say it loosely. Am I even on camera, guys? I'm not even sure if you can see me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, just to make sure. I have a girl that was part of the trafficking operations at Playboy Mansion earlier in the decade. And she was only 15, and she was dating Joe Francis of Girls Gone Wild fame at the time. Mm-hmm. And so she saw all the underground tunnels of Playboy Mansion and all the 12, 13-year-olds that were coming out of it and going into Bill Maher's room. And by the way, Playboy Mansion is not just a mansion of just sex, parties, and booze and drugs.
Cutting off again, Dean.
Yeah, he's gone again, yes.
Can you hear us, Dean?
Can you hear us? No, he can't. No. His audio's gone.
I don't think he can hear us, Dean. It's crazy everything we're learning tonight, right? From one mind that has been through it all. He's an investigative reporter. He used to be with InfoWars, a very famous group that would go behind the scenes and really acknowledge everything. But I don't think he can still hear us.
No, he can't. But this is a real eye opener.
Shadows, which is, I already knew it, but it's good. And it's no coincidence, guys, that they're now demolishing the Playboy Mansion. They're now demolishing weeks and months ago. And that's why they stopped the magazine. And that's why they stopped Victoria's Secret. And that's why because the head, I can't think of his name right now, the head of Victoria's Secret was involved in all this as well. There's going to come a time when people like Bill Maher is going to have to explain some things. Just everyone you can think of prominence in our fake culture, whom we're told to worship and is a celebrity, they're involved in a lot of these nefarious things. And,
so, Dean, looking at that as an involvement issue, can you hear me? You can hear me? We're having issues with Dean's connection. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, I think I'm back.
Okay, can you hear me, Dean?
1 second. I mean, they're screwing with my phone constantly. Every time I do this.
Yeah, can you hear us? We're having some technical issues again with Dean. He's spitting a lot of knowledge, a lot of different ways of looking at life. We're used to seeing the fantasy world where everything's pretty, and it's cool, but once you get to be an adult, it's good to question other things and look at life differently. Even if you see this as entertainment, it's fun to see different ways of looking at it. Like, I remember growing up, Charlie, I was a big fan of the X-Files because
Yeah.
To me, it was like an alternative. I grew up with
Right.
movies of fantasy, like magical realism, El Santo against the mummies, and so on. So this whole thing is very interesting, and to me, it invites me to open up my mind, and that's what I liked about the whole experience right now with Dean. I don't know if he can hear us
Yeah,
again.
absolutely.
I can
No.
hear you.
Yeah, you're.
They keep kicking me off Bluetooth. This happens
Okay, Dean.
on
Why don't
my
we
own
do this?
show.
We have a lot of knowledge. Can we invite you for a future show if you have a better connection? I guess you
And
got
lost
cut
it.
off.
I just apologize for all this. This is quite embarrassing, but it's a common thing in my everyday life. But
Yeah,
I want to thank you guys for having me on.
No, it's our pleasure, and I would actually like Nachin said, we would like you to invite you back during the future show and share more of your knowledge that you have. It's just interesting. It's definitely an eye opener of what's really out there, what's really going on, and that's just being quote unquote. The way it sounds like it feels like we're little by little being oppressed.
Uh, yeah, in closing, we have been. I think we're finally waking up to it. The
Mm-hmm.
good news is we're finally doing something about it, and it always starts at home, and it starts in neighborhood and counties. When we're fighting back, what you're seeing in Orange County is happening in every small county in every state, and people are finding their own potential and their own power, and they're not waiting for a white knight, so to speak, to save them. We need to understand and learn how to save ourselves and stand up for ourselves, because the greatest minority in the world is actually the individual. And I think with shows like yours and what I'm doing, and I invite people to come watch my show at the Real Deal Report, and it's on YouTube for now at Dean Ryan TV. And I invite people to join us for these stories that you should know, and you'll get past the fear right away. And people from all over the world watch me, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well. And it's not just an American problem or a Republican or Democrat problem. It's a world problem, but we're solving it together, and little by little, town by town, and we'll get through it. And we know who the enemies and the frauds are, but we're rediscovering what makes each other really great, and friendships and family. So at the same time, it's self-discovery and finding real value again. So it's not all bad, but it has some good in it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we want to follow up. What's going to happen? What is going to be the next step? You already told us unity and knowledge, but let's continue this conversation. It's fun and entertaining. It really opens our mind.
Absolutely. And thank you guys. And I invite the audience once again, the real Dean Ryan on Twitter and all social media. And then Dean Ryan TV, as absurd as that sounds, it's and like you guys said, it's fun. I don't take myself too seriously. Truth is the new celebrity, and news is the new sport, and information is the way of life, and that's how we get past all these evil characters. And Nachin, great to see you. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Man, what a beautiful conversation, Charlie. At the end of the day, you really think about it. You realize that there's an alternative out there. People are really, how can I say, están en otro nivel, ¿no? Ya estamos pensando diferente, ya estamos viendo esta cosa y pues no sé, what do you think about this whole thing? Because you're going to have our people, like commonly our friends, that's pendejo, you're dumb, why do you believe that? That's just crap. The system is there and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know.
Sí, exacto. Y eso es esa es la cosa, Yo respeto lo que la gente piensa, cada mente su propia historia, pero siempre es importante, ver la otra, como dices tú, el otro lado de la moneda. Sí, Gene tiene mucho que dar. A mí, así, desde que supe que ibas a platicar con él, I was like, whoa, dude, let me do some research. Y entre más leía, más miraba, luego más me quedaba asombrado en cómo como si no sabes, como la media, como quien dice, la tele o únicamente te da lo que ellos quieren que quieras creer y, lo que le
It's
hacemos es
crazy.
que
I guess
it
with this
is.
show, we're bringing an alternative to think differently, to see life differently, and we don't want you to subscribe to even our ideas or anybody else's ideas. It's just
Oh,
look at it
absolutely not.
like an entertainment show that is showing you different alternatives. Our friend Pulpo, I think he got bored or he got he got angry because Dean was talking too much. But Pulpo, when he comes back, hopefully he comes back next week. He wanted to talk about this whole corruption side in Mexico and how it's affecting humanity as a whole and taking it to another level. How it's making us be different individuals, and if we don't react to it, we're really gonna be crushed by it. Which means like there's a revolution. That's why I touched a little bit on with Dean Ryan talking about the aliens. Pulpo has seen aliens, and it's crazy how everything is just unfolding. A lot of people say you're crazy. I was in Mexico. I saw some flying objects, believe it or not, and I'm not lying. And it's just the times we're living, and I love it because it's open-minded. Live and let live.
Live and learn. Like you said, let live. I mean, I don't know. During this week, I came across a couple articles about the Air Force. How little by little, like Dean said, they're gonna start releasing more information. There's always that is Area 51 real?
Uh huh.
Y you think about that, supuestamente tienen extraterrestres y que naves espaciales
Oh yeah,
que
that is
supuestamente
the old
tienen.
school.
No, that's
Everybody
what I'm
pretty
saying.
much knows about that, but they're saying that Pulpo briefly mentioned that these people are already with us. Like they're already kind of like they've been here from the beginning of time. They just been away from it and controlling everything. And that's what I wanted to get to with Dean, but Dean was going more on the political side, and this going beyond the political side. This is looking at just evolution as a species.
Yeah, even at that, it's a crazy thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the alien. I'm
You're
over
an
here.
illegal alien according to your papers.
Eso que ni qué, eso que ni qué. Pero to think that obviously the universe is huge. I highly doubt that we're the only ones on this beautiful universe and on this planet. It'll be really selfish of us to think that way. Pero to think that something unknown has been around us such a long time, what has happened? What have they actually done, contributed, and maybe this technology that we're seeing, talking to each other via Skype.
Thanks to
Uh,
them, we're here, cabron. Thank you.
that's what I'm
Thank
saying.
you,
God
cabrones.
knows when.
That's why, not
you
that
know,
long ago, to kind of like summarize the whole show, not that long ago, I don't believe in coincidences. I feel like everything is going to happen, it's going to happen. And some people will say, you're dumb, you got to pre-plan, you got to do this. Of course you do that, but nothing is certain. Nothing is 100%. And because there's so many elements moving, people, situations, everything is constantly changing. So the only thing I could say is like, I met a man that kind of like told me about this whole thing, and it made me think. He said, look, there's going to be a different change. There's going to be a lot of different things coming. Just prepare for it. And the number one thing is like Dean said, there's going to be mass control. Hopefully not, but the world it's a big place already, but not big enough for everybody. So I think we just got to be ready, because I think we're living in revolutionary times, because the signs are everywhere. Like I said, I met this man and he was talking to me about the higher power. The higher power is the one that even made the aliens. So whatever you want to call it, God, entity, energy, whatever made us in this whole universe, there is a power behind it. So with that being said, I look up to it and I say, whatever you are, you created me, you gave me this, I guess, time, this instance here. I don't want to look at it like in a crazy way, but I feel like everything is going to happen at its due time. And number one thing we got to do is we must not look at it with fear. And with that being said, next
absolutely.
week I want to bring Pulpo if he's on board. If not, we have another gentleman that said he wants to come on board. His name is Angel, and Angel speaks Spanish. We're going to try to translate as we go. But Angel basically is somebody that talks about evil and good, but evil being as kind of like that entity, that energy that woke up man. So we're going to look at it from a philosophical way and from a way
Excellent.
of scientifically way looking at it. So don't be afraid to join us for the next show. We have crazy topics. We're also going to have artists. We're going to be talking about everyday life, but we also want you to think differently and not just be somebody that just lives through life. These are just conversations between friends. Carlos is my dear friend. My dear friend Frank on the other side. He's with us, and that's our producer on the other side. And it's people like this that come together to bring you something that to some might not like it, but to those that do, that is what makes us feel good. You know?
Absolutely. Dear to your heart. That's right.
Carlos, muchas gracias.
No,
Thank you for
un
another
placer.
episode.
Gracias a ti. Absolutely. Hope to see you next week. See what's on board.
Definitely. Frank on the other side in Miami, thank you for staying up with us. It's late on the other side, but you took the time to be here even though you have a busy schedule. God bless you and God protect us all, and let's just live life, man. Life is too short. Let's try to be with each other and be better individuals at it.
Amen. Good night.
Good night. Till next time.